How I pronounce the names of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, He, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pe, Tzadi, Kof, Resh, Shin or Sin, Tav. What you just heard used the hard pronunciation for each of the double letters, which is by far the more common pronunciation when simply talking about the Alef-Bet. But actually, the hard pronunciation is only used when the letter has a dagesh lene inside of it, the dot that appears in the middle of the letter. So now I will pronounce the double letters first in their soft form, and then in the hard form with the dagesh lene. Vet, Bet, Gimel sounds the same whether or not it has the dagesh lene. Dalet, Dalet, Chaf, Kaf, Fe, Pe. Resh sounds the same whether or not it has the dagesh. And finally, Thav or Sav, and with the dagesh lene, Tav. As you study Hebrew and experience it being read or spoken in different settings, you'll hear some variation in the way letters sound and the way their names are pronounced. Vet or Bet can also be pronounced Veit or Beit. Vav can also be pronounced Wow. Chet can also be pronounced Chet. Tet can also be pronounced Tet. Yud can also be pronounced Yod. Tzadi can also be pronounced Tzadik. Kof can also be pronounced Kuf. Shin or Sin can also be pronounced as Shin or Sen. There's no perfect way to know the exact pronunciation which was used for the Hebrew letters during the biblical period, and it probably varied and shifted many times throughout the 1,000 years or more during which the Bible was composed. There were also regional dialects even during those times. Today there are two main variations in Hebrew pronunciation, which differ due to the historical geographical separation between these Jewish communities. Ashkenazi Jews trace their cultural heritage from the regions straddling France and Germany, and more recently, this includes Jews of Eastern or Central Europe. Their way of speaking is known as the Ashkenazic pronunciation. Sephardi Jews trace their cultural heritage to the Iberian Peninsula, including Spain and Portugal. Their way of speaking is known as the Sephardic pronunciation. These are the two most common Hebrew pronunciations, but there are many others as well. Mizrahi Jews trace their origins from the Middle East and include Yemenite Jews who also have a distinct pronunciation known as Yemenite or Taimani. Scholars have also attempted to guess historic pronunciation based on nearby related languages or written evidence. A knowledge of exactly which sounds are used in which dialect is not helpful for our purposes. I tend to favor retaining as many of the historically plausible distinctions as possible, without drifting too far from pronunciations that are actually used today. Perhaps there are two differences I will point out which can be quite confusing. First, modern Ashkenazi Jews use an S-like sound for the soft version of tav, while Sephardi Jews use a T-like sound as in tet, while Yemenite Jews use an unvoiced th sound, like the English word think. This means the word we know in English as Sabbath is pronounced as Shabbos by the Ashkenazi Jews, Shabbat by the Sephardi Jews, and Shabbath by the Yemenite Jews. The second difference I will point out is that the two sounds of Dalet are distinguished by the Yemenite Jews as well as some Sephardi Jews. To them, the soft Dalet makes a voiced th sound, like the English word those. In contrast, some but not all Ashkenazi Jews will pronounce this same soft Dalet with a z sound, zalet. Other Jews do not differentiate and pronounce the hard D sound for both forms of Dalet. I try to follow the Yemenite pronunciation for both of these letters. For the hard Tav, I make a T sound. For the soft Tav, I make an unvoiced TH sound, as in think. For the hard Dalet, I make a D sound. And for the soft Dalet, I make a voiced TH sound, as in those. However, I will often use the Sephardic pronunciation for common words like Shabbat, since I'm more used to hearing them that way. Don't worry too much about which pronunciation to use. It's probably a good idea to try to match the pronunciation of the other people you're studying with. But keep these differences in mind so that when you hear them, you'll know what's going on.